Okay, so yeah, today's it's Halloween, folks, and yeah, I'm gonna be wearing these for Halloween because, well, I'm a guy who's pretty much got very little money to spend on, on cosplay, but I'll probably do a better one next year or when the convention comes to town. But for now, I think this is sort of a response to Mother's Basement video on Monster Girls. If you guys want to see that video first, you can check down in the description. But if I'd probably recommend watching that video. However, I have this sort of different take on the topic at hand. So basically, for those of you who haven't seen, crap, I really don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, or I don't even know what this guy's name is. All I know is it Jeff or something? I don't know. I don't know the guy's name, but long story. I only know him by Mother's Basement. That's all I know him by. But yeah. Anyways, he goes on to mention as to how all of a sudden, this sort of Monster Girl explosion sort of came out of nowhere, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I'm not an outsider to this. I have picked up books that sort of go into this category. I have read anime that fits into this category. And, I can kind of see the appeal. I can understand why people would probably be drawn to the concept of Monster Girls. But then all of a sudden, it's like, it's the fall season and there's like maybe 4 anime that feature the Monster Girl trope. It's sort of become its own trope by now, Where it's like, I think you guys kind of know where I'm getting this. However, like I said, watch the video by Mother's Basement in order to understand it better. However, I want to sort of discuss as to how this sort of came about. Because according to a different video, this one by Gaijin Goomba has to do with Gegege no Kitaro. I have not watched that anime, but I'm planning on maybe watching it, maybe reviewing it. I don't know. If you guys want me to review it, go ahead and, talk about it back down in the comment section. But basically he goes on about how it's kind of odd how in Japan they sort of went from having these yokai, or basically mythical monsters, who are almost godlike in terms of tiers. They're almost gods here, and suddenly they're like children's mascots. One good example, of course, Yokai Watch. However, and that's not the only. I don't think anime is the only medium that is guilty of it. Take, for example, how Nosferatu, one of the first vampire movies of all time, and probably one of the scariest, we went from having vampires in film like Nosferatu to, I'm just skipping over Twilight, to something like, say, Hotel Transylvania, where it's something that appeals to kids. Like, you have Dracula now is a father, or in this case, I guess, father-in-law or grandfather. Who cares, Long story short, he has a kid. That kid married a human, and now they have a human-vampire hybrid. And Adam Sandler, man, he's voiced by Adam Sandler. It's like, can we just go ahead and admit that that's actually a good movie? That's actually a good movie. I don't care if it has Adam Sandler. I think, it's like, regardless of it, I think this is one movie where, honestly, Adam Sandler does his best. It's the best since, honestly, actually, it's the best period. It's the best movie that has Adam Sandler, I guess. And we have and there are, of course, other examples. Take, for example, zombies. We went from, Dawn of the Dead, where basically you have zombies basically running around eating people up in the mall, to something like, say, Warm Bodies, which is a movie that actually features a guy who was turned into a zombie, suddenly regained conscious by eating a guy's brains, and suddenly falling for his girlfriend. Yeah, necrophilia is a thing now. And anime, and speaking of zombies, speaking of falling in love with zombies, it's not the only one. Take, for example, Sankarea, which is a manga that I have read, and I'm planning on watching the anime, which is basically about a guy who suddenly turns a girl into a zombie, accidentally, mind you, and, well, pretty much has to, quote-unquote, take responsibility. There's, like, some weird undertones in there. And, of course, the more recent anime, Zombieland Saga, where basically you have an entire group of girls turned into zombies and suddenly said, hey, let's make an idol group by some guy. You know, it's like, Jesus Christ. However, I think there's a very fair explanation. It's not just because, it's definitely not something that is in an anime, is something that is just encompassed only in anime, but I think it has a lot to do with sort of society in general and the state of the world. Now, first off, we have to sort of go down into where do monsters come from. And now I know probably someone out there is typing in the comment section that, oh, depends on usually their freak accidents or genetic mutations. No, erase that in a moment. I'm talking about a meta. This is a meta video, okay? Meta video, okay? So basically, monsters typically come from wanting to explain the unexplainable. You know, sure, it also applies to gods, to angels, to other creatures of mischief, but in general, a lot of mythology is basically trying to explain what we cannot explain. You know, for example, where do spiders come from? Oh, basically Athena cursed a chick for basically bad-mouthing the gods. Where do horses come from? It's because Athena and Poseidon were having a duel-off as to who can give the gifts to the people. Where do the Olympics come from? Hercules. You can go on and on and on. And basically, and even applies to other things in the real world. For example, where does Dracula come from? He actually takes inspiration from Vlad the Impaler. You can look it up. You probably know the backstory already. You know, it's about some guy who was so freaking bloodthirsty that he even created an entire forest out of corpses. Literally, just basically have them hung up by trees. Ugh. Or take, for example, Gremlins. For those of you who, and I'm sure you're probably thinking about that one 80s movie, you know, it's like, don't get them wet or else they explode, or don't feed them post-midnight. But do you know where Gremlins actually originate from? Here's a hint, World War II. Go ahead and Google it, but, you know, I don't care, I'm still going to be here. They came from World War II. It was basically meant to explain the reason why planes crashed down unexpectedly. Basically, if you guys have ever seen the Twilight Zone or that Bugs Bunny short cartoon, where he's basically trying to hunt down a gremlin that almost got him to blow up a bomb, that kind, you know, because, you know, Looney Tunes. Then yeah, that's probably the original version of a gremlin. And sometimes they're actually representative of fears of that time. For example, zombies were believed to be a sort of fear of people just sort of mindlessly following or mindlessly destroying something. And in fact, the reason why zombies have sort of become popular nowadays in media is because it's meant to be a type of explanation as to how hooked we are on media in the first place. So that's kind of a thing. Thing is, though, once we actually are able to find an explanation for certain things, they suddenly don't become scary at all. You know, it's like, as in anything, they can sometimes be a little bit alluring because now you want to find out a little bit more. Again, take for example, Monster Musume no Iro Nichijou. Yes, I have seen that show, and yes, initially it was because of the ecchi, but then after a while, this head actually started working, and it's like, okay, that's actually bringing up a couple of good points. For example, how do Lamias use the toilet? And other questions such as, how do they use lower undergarments? And of course, it does provide certain answers. Also, I do have a sort of theory on that show, so if you guys want me to do that, again, go down into the comment section. I really do read the comments, guys. It just takes me a while. So, anyways, so where am I getting at? Well, where do monster girls come from? Well, it's because suddenly we don't exactly have a fear for those monsters. If anything, we probably have worse fears out there. You know, we're talking global warming, social network hacking, pretty much the stock market. Of course, it's always going up and down. Heck, we have a maniac of a president. Yeah, I'm not denying it. We do have a megalomaniac as a president who is pretty much doing stuff that may not sit well with the general public. Maybe, yes, he was elected popularly, but I doubt he's really that intelligent. And for God's sakes, he's trying to reinterpret the 14th Amendment to allow to basically make children of illegal immigrants no longer U.S. citizens. Which, by the way, that's gonna affect me, dude. Like, also, I have along with me, there's also my sister who is in the Army. Meanwhile, you're a freaking draft dodger. So, you know, we are willing to fight for the country, but you're just gonna sit in your ivory tower, just pretty much sitting comfortable. It's like, what does your son think of you? Okay, I'm sorry for going off a political tangent, but you get the point, right? We have other things that really are gonna scare us. Whereas I think nowadays, with the advent of the internet, we can sort of create this type of hive mind that is able to come up with answers a lot faster than we might be able to. So suddenly when one person is like freaking out, oh, why is this going on? Then someone else comes up with an explanation. Then someone else comes up with a better explanation. Then someone comes up with something that refutes that explanation and creates, long story short, we are able to come up with better, more accurate conclusions faster than we ever could before. You know, for example, when Zika broke out, we were able to try to come up with a vaccine a lot faster than to the point where that should have been the next Black Plague. And yet, I've been bitten by mosquitoes so many times, and I'm still okay. Maybe not completely, but I'm breathing. I can still go to work, you know? So suddenly, when we should be suddenly the reason why and I think that also goes into other parts, like say for example, why monster movies or monster horror movies aren't doing so well, and or at least monster horror movies aren't doing so well. It's because we no longer have that type of fear because those things don't express our fears very accurately. I mean, it's the reason why Guillermo del Toro created Grinding Nemo. I know it's called The Shape of Water, but a lot of people call it Grinding Nemo. Hi, Memo. But, yeah, in other words, I think we're just sort of going into a new phase where maybe there will be a new monster that will probably describe the current fears we have. But until then, I think real life is actually a lot scarier than fantasy. Yeah, I didn't try to come up with... I was not expecting this episode to be that much of a downer. Well, anyways, happy Halloween, guys! So, yeah, just subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments down there below. Maybe you guys want an anime to review, or maybe you guys have a theory you guys want to talk about. I can probably make a video on that. Until then, this is me saying, thank you for being smart. Sayonara, and save me some chocolate bars.